Hello students, today again we are continuing with biology class 11th chapter number 3, that is kingdom Plantae. We have already studied in our last 2 lectures about the kingdom Plantae. Today is the 3rd lecture of this chapter, that is kingdom Plantae. Kingdom Plantae is divided into 2 groups, that is cryptogams and phanerogams. Okay, cryptogams is divided into division Thallophyta, Bryophyta, Pteridophyta, and phanerogams is divided into gymnosperms and angiosperms. In our last 2 lectures, we have studied about the characters of the division Thallophyta and classification of division Thallophyta. And next we have studied about the characters of the division Bryophytes and the classification of Bryophyta. Today we are going to study about the division Pteridophyta, characteristics of the division Pteridophyta and classification of Pteridophyta. In our next lecture we will study about gymnosperms and angiosperms. So today will be the last lecture of this division, that is cryptogams. Then we will start with phanerogams. Okay, so let us start with the division Pteridophyta. When I say Pteridophyta, it is the first vascular plants and the first successful terrestrial plant. Okay, Pteridophyta, the plants that belongs to pteridophytes, are the first vascular plants. That means they are the plants which shows the vascular tissues, that is xylem and phloem. And they are known as the first successful terrestrial plant with true roots, stems and leaves, but no flowers, fruits and seeds. That means Pteridophyta were the first plants to show the true roots, true stem and true leaves. Whereas in our last lecture we have studied that bryophytes were showing root-like, stem-like and leaf-like structures. But here pteridophyte shows the actual roots, stem and leaves. But still they do not show flower, fruits and bud. They are known as vascular cryptogams. The pteridophytes includes horsetails and ferns. We will see the examples in detail now. The pteridophytes are terrestrial, that means the plants that live on land. Small, either annual or perennial. That means terrestrial plants are either annual, that means they grow just only once in a year, or perennial. Some species of the plants are found to be grown every year. Okay, throughout the year I can say. Perennial means the plants that grow throughout the year, and annual means the plants that grow only once in a year. So some species of the pteridophytes are annual, while some species of the pteridophytes are perennial. And they grow luxuriantly in cool, moist and shady places. That means pteridophytes are growing in moist places, cool places, the place where we will find humidity. That means moisture is required for the growth of pteridophytes. Shady places. Examples for this type of pteridophytes are ferns. Okay. Some of the pteridophytes may be aquatic. Example for aquatic pteridophyte is Azolla, Marsilia. Some of the pteridophytes may be xerophytic. Okay. Xerophytic means the plants that grows in desert area. Example for such type is Equisetum. And some of the pteridophytes may be epiphytic. Epiphytic means the plants that grows on the other plant. An example for this is Lycopodium. Okay, growing on large trunk, and epiphytic means the plants that is growing on large trunk of trees. As I told you, the plants that are growing on other plants. Okay, some of the pteridophytes may be aquatic, some may be xerophytic and some may be epiphytic. Okay, some grows in water, some grows in desert area, some grows on the other plants, whereas main pteridophytes are growing in moist and shady places. So here pteridophytes are known as the first vascular and true land plants. Okay, they are first vascular plants and true land plants. They shows true root, true stem, true leaves. They are the only cryptogams with vascular tissues, that means xylem and phloem. They grow in moist and shady places. Pteridophytes show sporophytic and gametophytic stages in their life cycle. When I say sporophytic and gametophytic stages, we are going to study in detail about sporophytic and gametophytic stages. Before that, before studying the stages of the life cycle, let us once see the plant body of pteridophytes. How is the plant body of pteridophytes? The primary root is short-lived and is soon replaced by adventitious root. The roots of the pteridophytes, that means primary roots, are very short-lived. That means they die within a very short period of time, and they are very soon replaced by adventitious roots. Stem may be aerial or underground. The stem, sometimes in some species the stems may be aerial, that means they grow above the soil, and in some species they are underground, means they grow below the soil. Now coming on to the leaves. The leaves may be scaly, like in Equisetum, simple and sessile, example is Lycopodium, and in some plants the leaves are large and pinnately compound, an example for that is ferns. So in different species the nature of leaves vary. In some species the leaves are scaly, in some species the leaves are simple, sessile, and in some species the leaves are large and pinnately compound. The leaves in pteridophytes are small and they are known as microphyls, as in Selaginella. Example for this such type of leaves where small leaves are present is Selaginella, and in some plants the leaves are large and they are known as macrophylls, as in ferns. Example for macrophylls, large leaves, are ferns. In pteridophytes, the xylem consists of only tracheids and phloem consists of sieve cells. Okay, as I have told you, this is the first vascular plant, that means they show xylem and phloem. But among that xylem and phloem, xylem shows only tracheids and phloem shows only sieve cells. Okay, secondary growth is not seen in pteridophytes due to the absence of cambium. We cannot see any secondary growth in pteridophytes because cambium is not present in pteridophytes. Next, moving to sporophytic phase. As I have told you, there are two phases, sporophytic phase and gametophytic phase. What is sporophytic phase? Sporophytic phase of pteridophytes is diploid, dominant, autotrophic and independent. Okay, dominant means they are more powerful, autotrophic means they prepare their own food material, and independent means they don't depend on any other things. Sporophytic phase, sporophytic generation of pteridophytes are very much powerful. They prepare their own food. Since they prepare their own food, they don't have to depend on anyone, so they are known as independent. Okay, and sporophyte is again divided into root, stem and leaf, as the plant body of pteridophyte is divided. Leaves may be scaly, simple, sessile or pinnately compound. It will depend on species. Some species will be scaly, some species may be simple, some species may be sessile or pinnately compound. In these members, xylem consists of tracheids and phloem consists of cells. So, xylem consists of only tracheids and phloem consists of only cells. Secondary growth is absent due to the absence of cambium. As it is very much common in pteridophytes, secondary growth will not be seen because there is No cambium present here. Cambium is absent, so secondary growth will not be seen in pteridophytes. Next is gametophytic phase. We have seen the sporophytic phase. Next is gametophytic phase. Gametophytic phase is thalloid. It is called as prothallus. Gametophytic phase is known as prothallus. It is free-living gametophyte bearing sex organs such as antheridia and archegonia. The male reproductive part is known as antheridia and the female reproductive part is known as archegonia. So, we have to study about the gametophyte in short. Okay. So, gametophyte is thalloid, that means flat. It is called as prothallus. Okay. See here, this is the diagram for alternation of generation in pteridophytes. Alternation of generation means one time it will show sporophytic generation, second time it will show gametophytic generation. Gametophytic generation will produce gametes and sporophytic generation will produce spores. You can see here, this is the diagram, sporophyte. From sporophyte you can see a sporangium, meiosis and spores are coming. From this spores you can see young gametophytes. Gametophyte is coming, then antheridia, sperm. Okay, so here gametophytic generation will show gametes and sporophytic generation will show spores. So one time it will be when there are gametophytic generation is producing male gamete and female gamete. Okay, so when they are producing male and female gamete, at that time what is going to happen? Fertilization will take place, zygote will be formed. From zygote, new sporophyte will come. You can see here zygote gives rise to new sporophyte. So continuously it will show alternation of generation. Okay, one time sporophytic generation, one time gametophytic generation. Sporophyte will produce spores, they will produce gametophyte, gametophyte will produce gametes, and the union of gametes will produce again the new sporophytes. Okay, so last, economic uses, economic importance of pteridophytes. These pteridophytes are used for medicinal purposes and as soil binders. They are used in medicines, preparation of medicines, and they are used to bind the soil. Some of the pteridophytes are also grown as ornamental plants. That means for decorative purposes, pteridophytes are used. Mostly ferns are used for ornamental purpose. Moving to the last topic, that is classification of pteridophytes. Pteridophytes are classified into 4 types, that is Psilopsida, Lycopsida, Spinopsida and Pteropsida. Psilopsida is, the example for Psilopsida is Xylotum, Lycopsida is Selaginella, Lycopodium and Spinopsida is Equisetum. Last, Pteropsida is Dryopetris or Pteris or Ediantum. These are the classification. This is the classification of pteridophytes. It is classified into 4 types: Psilopsida, Lycopsida, Spinopsida and Pteropsida. So here we complete this division, that is Pteridophyta. Okay, in our next lecture we will continue with gymnosperms. We will stop here for today. Thank you everyone. We will continue in our next lecture.